Number 5. On January 26, 1950, a Douglas C-54 Skymaster took off from Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, bound for Montana. 2 hours in, the crew reported heavy icing and turbulence, then went completely silent. No distress call, no further contact. The plane never arrived. Who was on board? 44 people, 8 crew and 36 passengers, including a civilian woman and her infant son. The search. A massive joint U.S.-Canadian operation was launched. Over 85 aircraft and 7,000 personnel combed the Yukon wilderness. During the search, 4 rescue planes crashed. Still, no trace of the missing aircraft was ever found. Why it's still a mystery? A large 4-engine aircraft carrying 44 people left absolutely no physical evidence. No wreckage, no belongings, no crash site. The leading theories are either a mountain impact buried by snow or a descent onto a frozen lake where the plane sank beneath the ice. Neither has ever been confirmed. To this day, the aircraft has never been located. In 2012, families formally petitioned the U.S. government for a new search. It remains one of the largest unsolved military aviation disappearances in history. No answers, no closure, no trace.
Number 4. On October 16, 1972, a twin-engine Cessna 310C vanished in the Alaskan wilderness, triggering one of the greatest mysteries in U.S. political history. The aircraft was carrying 4 people: House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, one of the country's top politicians, Alaska Representative Nick Begich, a political aide, and an experienced pilot. They took off from Anchorage, heading to Juneau during severe weather, including heavy fog and icing conditions. Shortly after takeoff, the plane went completely silent without sending any distress calls. The U.S. military launched the largest search and rescue operation in American history at the time. For 39 days, over 85 aircraft searched 325,000 square miles of rugged terrain. Despite this massive effort, absolutely no wreckage, debris, or bodies were ever found. The total lack of evidence fueled intense conspiracy theories. Hale Boggs had been a member of the Warren Commission investigating the JFK assassination and had publicly doubted the official findings, leading many to suspect a political assassination. In a bizarre twist, the missing Nick Begich actually won his re-election posthumously a few weeks later. Following this tragedy, the U.S. Congress passed a law making emergency locator transmitters, ELTs, mandatory on all civil aircraft to prevent planes from vanishing without a trace again. In August 1913, the Canadian Arctic expedition took a tragic turn when its flagship, the HMCS Karluk, became trapped in the Arctic ice. Led by explorer Wilhelmus Stephenson, the expedition aimed to explore the uncharted regions north of Canada. Shortly after the ship became stuck, Stephenson left the vessel with a small hunting party, promising to return. However, the ice began to drift rapidly, carrying the Karluk away and leaving 25 crew members and scientists stranded under the command of Captain Robert Bartlett. For months, the ship drifted helplessly in the freezing dark of the Arctic winter. Finally, on January 11, 1914, the crushing pressure of the ice punctured the hull. The crew abandoned ship, transferring months of supplies onto the ice before the Karluk sank beneath the freezing waters. Captain Bartlett led the survivors across the treacherous moving ice floes to Wrangel Island, a desolate piece of land off the coast of Siberia. Realizing that help would never find them there, Bartlett and an Inuk hunter named Kataktovik walked another 700 miles across the frozen Chukchi Sea to Siberia to launch a rescue mission. By the time a rescue ship reached Wrangel Island in September 1914, 11 members of the expedition had died. Some perished from exposure and starvation, while others vanished entirely while trying to walk to safety on their own. The disaster remains one of the most harrowing survival stories in the history of Arctic exploration.
Number 2. The Alaska Triangle, America's most mysterious disappearance zone.
Deep in the American wilderness lies a region that has quietly swallowed more than 20,000 people over the past 50 years. Known as the Alaska Triangle, this vast area stretches between three cities, Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik, formerly Barrow, forming a triangle that rivals the Bermuda Triangle in mystery and scale. The numbers don't lie. Alaska records twice the national average of missing persons cases. Every year, approximately 2,250 people vanish without a trace. What makes this even more alarming is the context. Alaska is the largest state in the US, yet only 1% of its land is inhabited. Fewer people, more disappearances, the math simply doesn't add up. What's going on? No one has a definitive answer. The terrain is brutal. Endless forests, frozen tundra, raging rivers, and mountain ranges that stretch beyond the horizon. Search and rescue teams often find nothing. No bodies, no wreckage, no clues. Some point to the extreme environment as the culprit. Others raise questions about unusual magnetic anomalies in the region that may interfere with navigation equipment. Indigenous Alaskan traditions speak of powerful spiritual forces in these lands that have been respected and feared for centuries. A place that keeps its secrets. What sets the Alaska Triangle apart is not just the volume of disappearances, but the silence that follows each one. In most cases, investigations go cold quickly. The wilderness reclaims everything and tells nothing. Whether the explanation is geological, environmental, or something far stranger, one fact remains undeniable. The Alaska Triangle is one of the most statistically dangerous places on Earth to get lost.
Lost in Alaska, the strange case of Gary Frank Southerden. In the 1970s, a man from New York named Gary Frank Southerden disappeared somewhere in the vast Alaskan wilderness. No distress call, no trail, no witnesses. Years later, his bones were discovered along the banks of the Porcupine River in Alaska, far from civilization, deep in one of the most remote landscapes on Earth. More questions than answers. Investigators suspected a bear attack may have been responsible for his death. The wilderness is unforgiving, and encounters with brown bears in Alaska are not uncommon. But suspicion is not the same as certainty. No one could say with confidence what truly happened to Gary Frank Southerden. How did a man from New York end up alone by a remote Alaskan river? What was he doing there? How long did he survive before the end came? None of these questions were ever answered. The silence of the wild. His case is just one of thousands swallowed by the Alaska Triangle. The bones were found, but the truth was not. In Alaska's wilderness, the land buries its secrets deep, and most of them stay buried forever.
What the indigenous people say, the Kushtaka. Long before scientists tried to explain the Alaska Triangle, the native people already had an answer, and it was far more terrifying. The shapeshifter of the wilderness. The Tlingit and Tsimshian peoples, indigenous to southeastern Alaska, have passed down warnings about a creature called the Kushtaka, meaning land otter man. It is described as a shape-shifting being, part human and part otter, capable of transforming into anyone or anything. Its method is chillingly simple. It takes the form of a loved one, a friend, a family member, even a crying child, and uses that familiar face to lure travelers deeper into the wilderness. Those who follow it are never seen again. Portals and punishing spirits. The Kushtaka is not the only warning in indigenous tradition. Native Alaskan stories also speak of spiritual gateways, invisible portals scattered throughout the wilderness that can pull a person from this world into another. Some elders describe the land itself as alive and aware, punishing those who enter without respect. Many indigenous groups consider the Triangle's wilderness sacred ground. Their oral traditions have warned for centuries, do not venture into these lands unprepared and never alone.
Ancient warnings, modern disappearances. What makes these legends impossible to dismiss is their consistency with modern cases. People vanish in areas that are thoroughly searched. No bodies, no traces, as if they simply stepped through an invisible door. Science calls it terrain and weather. The Tlingit have a different word for it. They call it the Kushtaka.